Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another great edition of The Hit. I am very excited about this one, but let's just get into it. I am Logan Graffia, he's Calvin Rhines, and today we have a very special guest, John Sigler from the SaintsWire. What is going on, John?
Man, we are up to our elbows and alligators over here, man. Keeping up with the Saints, everything we got going on with free agency and deadlines and legal tampering and all this stuff, man. Just staying on top of it all.
Love it, love it. So let's just start with what the hot topic of the water cooler, in a manner of speaking, is Derek Carr. I mean, how did we get to this point? Like, from the meetings to him going to visit with the Jets, just how did we get to this point?
Yeah, man. So the Saints were, they felt that they knew what they had at quarterback with Jameis Winston, with Andy Dalton, and they felt that this was their best opportunity to upgrade. We can agree or disagree on whether that's true, but that's how they look at it. They see Carr as somebody who has been around the block a time or two and who still has a lot of good football ahead of him. So, hey, they're very confident in him. They were his strongest suitor here. I know the Jets were involved, but they're waiting on Aaron Rodgers to climb down from whatever mountain he's on top of right now, or whatever cave he's meditating in. Who knows? So they weren't too serious about it. The Panthers were not as serious. The Saints saw him as their guy, and they made every effort to get him. So hopefully it works out.
Now, Calvin, I want to bounce off of that.
I just want to say, I really think it's important, right, for us to get a quarterback early. Last year you saw a swing for Deshaun Watson, and when you don't want to get into a situation. Me personally, I wouldn't want to get a situation like what the Jets are doing, right? Like, they know they want Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers is holding this up. Free agency is about to start. Like, I want to make sure I have my quarterback, because if I have my quarterback, that sets a lot of things in motion. You have receivers, whether or not you want to argue last year about Odell or whoever else not coming here because of Jameis and Andy, that's up to y'all. But, it does matter, having structure, having things set, especially at a position like quarterback, that matters a lot. So just getting Derek Carr, whether or not you think he's the right guy or not, I mean, we have a definite QB1 for the first time really since Drew Brees, and someone who we look at like, all right, he's going to run the show, and he's going to come to the line with multiple plays, and he's going to see which play he wants, which is, something that we wanted to do, but we couldn't since we didn't have Drew Brees. But, this is good because we got everything set, and now we can just focus on everything else. We ain't got to worry about it in the draft. How high are we going to draft a quarterback? We don't have to worry about it. So I think this is good for us, just in terms of a timing standpoint.
So with free agency, John, coming up, I mean, Monday, which is today, starts the legal tampering period, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, is there any names out there that we should, as Saints fans, be looking at? Like, who are the Saints potentially looking at position wise?
I think running back is their real focus right now. They know they're going to be without Alvin Kamara for some time in the fall. We saw the issues last year where they're having busted up David Johnson out there running in December and January, and Benjamin didn't get a lot of looks, and Mark Ingram, love Mark Ingram, but he's cooked, man. Like he's at the end. He's at the end of his career. He's going to go out as the leading rusher in team history. That's a big accomplishment. Proud for him. But the Saints they know they've got to get younger at running back. They need better depth there. That's really where their attention is right now, based off what I'm hearing. A couple players to watch out for. Alexander Madison from the Vikings is one. He's been running behind Dalvin Cook for a while. He's pretty effective. And the Saints, hey, they got some pretty good ball out of Latavius Murray, another former Vikings running back. Another guy to look at, former Jets and Jaguars running back. Oh shoot, I'm blanking out, man. I went and dropped this man's name, his credentials, everything about him.
James Robinson, I think.
Thank you so much. Yeah, James Robinson. He was recently let go by the Jets after they traded for him during the season. That was kind of weird. But he's someone I'm really keyed in on because he would not count into the comp picks formula for next year. So the Saints could sign him, and if they lose somebody like Marcus Davenport or David Onyemata, all these guys I bet we're about to talk about, they could still get a comp pick for one of them after signing James Robinson as opposed to Madison or one of these other running backs on the market. So they're looking to get deeper in the backfield. Those are two names on my radar.
Well, I mean, Calvin knows how I feel about Alexander Mattinson because we talk a lot off camera, of course, and I'm always telling him, like, look, imagine a backfield of, Alvin Kamara, Tajay Spears, and even Alexander Mattinson. I mean, that's a three-headed monster. And, I mean, Calvin, if we got somebody like a Mattinson or James Robinson that John here just mentioned, I mean, how would you feel about that?
I mean, I feel like it'd be great. I mean, I've talked about it before. I think we need to definitely get back to that recipe that we've had, in 2009 and 2010, 2011, where we had 3, 4 great running backs that all can be starters, and that was proving. Chris Ivory left; he was a starter for the Jets. When Tre'Davious Cadet left, he was a starter. So a lot of people that we had that were 3s and 4s, like they could start. Like we need to get back to that. We haven't had that for a little bit. The running backs are a dime a dozen, though. I hate to say, I love my running back positions, but I mean, man, like I'm not concerned at all with finding a good back because if you just really try, you can find one. There's so much talent running back right now for free agency and especially the draft. Me personally, I kind of want to dip more into the draft, because that's some great young talent there. Tajay Spears, he'll probably be available. Deuce Vaughn, I like him a good bit. There's so much that we could do at the running back position, man. It's such a plentiful position, man. Like, if we go, I'm looking at the list here, right? Alexander Madison, Jamal Williams, Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, Myles Gaskin. Like, there's so many names on here. Like, I'll be talking forever. Like, no matter what we do, man, like we're going to be fine at running back. I believe in the running back positions really at any point in the draft here. Like, we'll be fine, man.
So another position I think the Saints could use an upgrade at is the left guard spot where Andres Pete's been at for so many years, John. And do you see a divorce happening with Andres Pete when free agency opens, or do you see them upgrading it in the draft? What do you think?
I would like to see them upgrade that spot. I'd like to see them get deeper at that spot just because, Pete, I hate to criticize a guy for injuries because so much of that is outside their control, but he's never played a full season. He never did it before the regular season expanded to 17 games. So he's not someone that you can really count on and say, hey, this guy's going to play 1,100 snaps for us. That's not who he is at this point in his career. It's not who he has been. So you take the durability issues, you take the contract involved. I would like to see them make a move there. I just don't know that it's going to be possible. So much depends on what's going on in other positions because he's somebody who could get that post June 1st cut designation. The problem there is you could only use that twice here in March, and we're expecting Michael Thomas to be one of the players to get that. And so the other one would have to be, Andres Pete or potentially Jameis Winston if he doesn't agree to a pay cut. So it gets kind of dicey. It's like a house of cards almost, where you've got all these other factors playing in, and you make the wrong move, the whole thing falls down. So that's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. I can totally see a situation where Jameis agrees to take a pay cut, and then Mike Thomas gets an extension, and then they say, okay, now we're just going to let go with Pete, and we'll get those cap savings in June, and then we can sign our draft class, and they'll be happy with that. But that's just one possible outcome here. This could go 5 or 6, 7 different ways. So I think we're at a real point where that's being considered, but it's too soon to say whether that's what's actually going to happen here.
So realistically, because I started thinking about this after I seen a tweet that Fletcher said when it comes to the Jameis Winston situation, where we signed Drew Brees in 2006 and you just tell Aaron Brooks, hey, just take a pay cut to be the backup after being the starter for 5 years. But do you actually see a realistic possibility that Jameis is still on this roster come Wednesday?
It's hard to say because it really felt like that bridge got burnt last year when they benched him after the injury, and it seemed like there was a real split between him and the coaching staff and the organization, But we're all on the outside looking in here. Me, Fletcher, everybody, all of us. So it's hard to say. If one thing I am certain about is that Jameis Winston, his agent has been talking to teams at the combine and throughout this whole process, kind of getting a sense of what opportunities would be out there if he was a free agent. We know that he was going to meet with the Colts last year as a free agent. He was actually their top choice in free agency until Matt Ryan became available. The plane that Indy was sent to Atlanta to pick up Matt Ryan was supposed to go to New Orleans to get Jameis Winston. And they're right back where they started, where they need a QB. So I could see that being a possibility for him. So I think he'll have options. It's whether he'll have the right options and whether there will be something out there that he really feels is worth exploring. So I think there's a chance, but I don't know that it's a very good chance because the coaching staff is the same here in New Orleans, and we saw how poorly that situation played out.
So, Calvin, going to you, I mean, how would that look on the Saints' part if by chance Jameis does kind of, step back and take the number 2 role? I mean, would it be kind of like Fletcher said in his tweet where Drew Brees would be the number 1 guy in 06 and Aaron Brooks just says, forget it, I'll be number 2? I mean, how would that look, you think, Calvin?
I think it would really speak more about not so much how the Saints would look, but how much Jameis would look, right? Looking at his character. I mean, it takes a lot for you to be, Heisman winner. It takes a lot for you to be your first pick in the draft. You start at a place for, 8 seasons. You're not really that successful. You do some good things, you do a lot of bad things. Come to a new situation. A Hall of Fame quarterback looks you in the eyes and tells you this is your team, in his last game. And, things just went wrong. It was going well, 14 touchdowns, 3 picks, whatever, and then he gets injured, right? He's out. And then you come back next season, you get benched, right? That's a lot. And, no matter what anybody says about Jameis, I definitely respect the guy's character. And it'll look really good on him, right? From a character standpoint, that he looks in the mirror and he's like, I understand that I'm probably never going to be a true starter in this league anymore. Like, this is what I am now. And for him to come and take a pay cut and be a backup, right? That speaks volumes to who he is. And, it would just be on par with what everyone says about him in person. But as far from an organizational standpoint, in a weird way, I feel like there's sort of this rift, not really that much of a rift, but, some sort of disagreement on quarterback, because I feel like if it was up to Dennis Allen, it would just be, all right, we're just going to re-sign Andy, right? But Mickey Loomis, I guess, seems like he likes Jameis. I mean, Jameis was a Sean Payton guy, and we all know how much Mickey respects Sean Payton's opinions and, guys that he wants. So, maybe this was just Mickey throwing him out, a little courtesy, hey, I still like you, but I don't, if I was him, I'd try to explore, but I think there's not really any place that he could go to where he's going to be a definite starter unless he comes out, plays for one of these teams, going to draft a quarterback. They have the rookie sit for a couple games. You know how it goes, right? Like Kenny Pickett. All right, yeah, sure, we'll start Mr. Trubisky. We know that by week 5, 6, 7, Mr. Trubisky's not going to be starting. He goes to one of those teams, starts for his 5 weeks. Unless he has a Geno Smith type season in the first, 5 games, then he's getting benched. They're going to find every reason to bench him. So, it's tough. I think he would be better suited going elsewhere. It's just not going to work out here anymore, unfortunately.
So while we're on the topic of, I guess, backup quarterbacks, John, I mean, do you see the Saints more likely to sign a quarterback in free agency to sit behind Derek Carr, or do you see them drafting one in this draft?
Man, I can totally see Andy Dalton returning. And look, if that's his role, if he's just here to hold a clipboard and look at the pictures on the sideline on the tablet for 3 months, I'm okay with that. He's done well in that role before. He was doing fine in that for the Saints last year. Justin Fields talked about that with the Bears the year before about how great of a resource he was. That's okay if that's the vision here. I cannot watch this dude start 10, 12, 14 games again. I can't do it. I cannot do it. I'll see if I can get transferred to like Chiefs Wire or something. I can't do it. But so yeah, I could see them bringing back somebody if the price is right like that. And Andy does know the system, so there's some value there. I will say, and Logan, I know you're going to like this. there is a ton of smoke about Hendon Hooker and the Saints in this draft. There is a ton of rumor. There's a ton of buzz there. The Saints have had a lot of contact with him. They met with him extensively at the Senior Bowl. They met with him again at the Combine. I think they have a regional scout that just loves Tennessee for some reason, because they're always at that campus, looking at guys. In recent years, Alontae Taylor last year, Shy Tuttle, Alvin Kamara, obviously, Marquez Callaway. They hired Cody Burns, the Tennessee receivers coach last year, and Ross Jackson was at the Combine, talked with Hendon about that relationship, and that's somebody that Hendon Hooker likes a lot, that he's worked with before. So there's a lot of connections there. I could totally see them drafting a guy like him. They're in rounds 2, 3. They're after they've gotten some players who can help out right away, because they signed Carr. They're telling us that that they're ready to compete, and they want to support him. And so that's why I'm not looking at it like, oh, well, maybe they could draft Hendon in the first round. No. They need somebody who can get on the field this year. And honestly, that has to be the expectation. They can't draft another, Peyton Turner, who is going to need 2 or 3 years before he can play in the first round. They need an instant impact. So I think QB is in play. Jake Hayner is another guy I like from he's Fresno State, right? We have a Fresno State Bulldog back up another one there with Carr. I would like to see him, rounds 4 or 5 maybe. So yeah, I think drafting a QB is in play. When you look at Carr's contract too, really it's a 2-year deal. So they can get out of this after next season if things don't go as planned. And I think it would be smart to go ahead and invest in a QB draft pick, a rookie, and start to work with him. Have your QB coach, Ronald Curry, work with him. Ronald Curry, I say QB coach, he might be your offensive coordinator this time next year. So if everything goes as planned. So that would be good to have that groundwork established. It's something I'm definitely watching out for here in the months ahead.
I mean, I do love hearing all that. Calvin knows that. But so we covered running back, the guard position, even quarterback position. But in your opinion, I mean, getting Carr was the biggest checklist you can check off the list you can have. But what is the number one position of need going into the draft right now, in your opinion, John?
Yeah, I think defensive tackle's got to be it, just because they don't have anybody. They don't. The only defensive tackle they've got is a guy named Prince Emily, who was on the practice squad last year, didn't play a single snap. So all 4 of their top DTs, David Onyemata, Shy Tuttle, Contavious Street, Malcolm Roach, all 4 of these guys are free agents. So you can look at it one of 2 ways, or both, if you don't get weird with it. Now you can look at it as we got no depth. We got nothing here. This has to be a priority. We need to keep as many of these guys as we can. Or you can look at it the other way and say, hey, this is an opportunity to rebuild from the ground up, because the Saints defensive tackles, they got pushed around a bit last year. The Saints gave up a lot of ground last year. They got run on at times last year. They lost Ryan Nielsen. They replaced him with Todd Grantham. Maybe this is an opportunity to rebuild this position group with a new coach and new input, and try out some new things up front. So it's interesting, and to me, that has to be their top priority going into the draft. Now, we'll see how things shake out with free agency. I'm sure they can keep some of these guys. Onyemata, there's some buzz building about him potentially leaving, which that would hurt, because you're going to take a $10 million dead money hit if he goes. But that's something you've prepared for, that you may expect if you're the Saints. So hopefully that works out one way or another to benefit the team.
Calvin, so with defensive tackle, like John said, being such an important position of need, who are some names in the draft that you like? I mean, give me a couple that on the top of your head that you are looking at right now.
Brian Breesy, I played against him, cool guy. Kalijah Clancy, obviously, I mean, that's super athletic. Those are really like my top guys, because and also, what's his name, the guy from Baylor, Ika
Siaki.
Yeah,
Siaki.
Yeah, I like him. Huge run stuffer right there. And like, it's like what John said, we got pushed around a little bit. It was kind of disappointing, right? We had like 50 something games in a row without letting up 100-yard rusher, and then the Eagles, 2 years ago did us in, and then were like, all right, well, let's start the streak again, and then it happened like 2, 3, 4 times. Like,
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, this is not this is not on brand for us. So yeah, D tackle is definitely a worry. I'm an end, so I'm always gonna say end is a position of need because I show my little favoritism for my position. But we re-signed Tano Passanwa. Shout out to him. We need more. D-line period. I think that's the whole weakness. But I think another, I wouldn't really necessarily say weakness. I'm gonna say weakness. I think the tight end position needs to
Mm-hmm.
be upped a little bit. So that's my question to you, John. Like, what type of prospects are we looking at here for tight end? Like, how high is the tight end position on the Saints board in the draft?
I think they want to be in a position going into the draft where they can get one of these top prospects there. And by that, I mean, they're looking at how many other problems can we address in free agency so that we go into the draft and we can justify, spending a pick on a tight end here early on. We're talking at 29 or 40, or maybe they trade. Who knows? I think they want to upgrade from Adam Troutman as that blocking tight end. He's in the last year of his contract. He has not developed as they hoped. I know they hired a new coach for the tight ends this offseason, so maybe that helps him out a bit. We'll see. But they just signed Juwan Johnson to a 2-year deal, so we know he's going to be the pass-catching tight end. He's going to be around. He's going to be a big player for them. But they need a number 2. And I'm looking at the draft. There's 2 guys I'm really zeroed in on here as far as blocking ability. Darnell Washington from UGA is one of them. Look. Every fan base, all 32 of them right now, are saying, okay, how can we get Darnell Washington in the second round? Like every single team is saying this right now. I don't know that he's actually going to be available for the Saints once they're on the clock. The guy, he did so well at the combine. He's got a lot of momentum behind him right now. The other prospect I'm looking at, and it's kind of funny how this process is working for him, is Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. Because he went into this as the tight end 1, as the top prospect. And then you're talking, you see Mike Mayock saying, yeah, there could be 10 or 12 tight ends picked in the first 3 rounds. And all of a sudden, some of the shine has come off of Michael Mayer. And now he's potentially not going in the top 20 picks anymore. Maybe he's an option at 29. And I would love that. He has, I would have to go back and check. He's got over 600 snaps as a run blocker. Just as a run blocker here in college. That's more snaps than I think Darnell Washington played in total at Georgia in his whole career. So he's very experienced. He's done, he's shown you that he can execute so many different blocking assignments. He can help you out. He can move guys up front. And then he's also an asset as a receiver. He led the country. He led all the tight ends in the NCAA in first down conversions and contested catches at PFF. Where they went and looked, and every time somebody had a chance on the ball, how often was he winning? And I believe he had like a 66% chance or something crazy like this on those 50-50 balls. So, and we know that's something that Dennis Allen has talked about, how we need somebody who we can go to on third down, who can win those contested catches, who can compete at the catch point. And I think Michael Mayer would make a lot of sense for this team. I think he and Juwan Johnson, that could be a really effective duo. And someone who could be in play at the 29th pick. So I think those are 2 guys on the radar, and hopefully one of them is available.
Man, I love both prospects. I really, really do. I mean, one I find very underrated. I mean, as Will Mallory. Me and Calvin discussed that not too long ago. But
Miami.
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, he's the one who had that nice 40 time, right? He clocked like a 4.5 or something. What was it?
I think that might have been.
4.59, 4.69, 4.59, something like that.
Yeah. That cat can move, man.
Hey, all these tight ends look like they can move, man. Like Brenton Strange, I like him a lot. Like I'm watching his combine, I started watching him. I was like, all right, I kind of like this Brenton Strange guy. Man, there's a lot of tight ends here. I don't know why, but I'm so excited about the tight end class in the draft because it's like I really want to get a new tight end. I've been wanting to get a new tight end really after Jared Cook disappointed me like that in that playoff game. I've been waiting on it. Waiting for my Jimmy Graham replacement, man. I've been waiting on it for so long, but I think we do real solid no matter where we draft the tight end, man. They all look decent,
Yeah, they got lots of options here. That's what everybody likes to keep talking about is how many tight ends are in this draft, and when they'll be available. The Saints may not have to pick one at 29 or 40. Maybe they can wait on a guy like Strange or Tucker Kraft from South Dakota State. Maybe there's somebody that they like that'll be available. Another one to keep an eye on is Luke Musgrave from Oregon State. The Saints are working with him at the Senior Bowl. They had 2 coaches on that staff. They got a really good close look at him in practice. I don't remember if he ran at the combine or not. I know he missed most of the last season with an injury, but obviously he was able to practice at the Senior Bowl, caught a lot of passes there. So he's somebody I know they're in on. But we'll just have to kind of wait and see where he is, projected to go in the draft, because you've got some outlets saying that he's a top 15 prospect, and then others saying, maybe he might go in the 3rd round. So that's still kind of unclear. But yeah, to your point, there's a ton of tight ends available. There's a lot of guys to like here, and that is a need for the Saints.
Where's your boy Sam Laporta at, Logan? I know, because we both love him. We both love Sam Laporta.
Okay, man.
I mean, that is somebody. I mean, they at the combine, Daniel Jeremiah was comparing him to George Kittle. I don't know if he was comparing him to George Kittle because they went to the same school, but you start watching the tape, you see little nuances of Kittle and a smattering of other players. I mean, I would love to have somebody like Sam Laporta. I mean, we already got Juwan Johnson. That's already great enough. We need another one, because I'm very disappointed with the development of Adam Troutman. I'm very disappointed because when we drafted him, I remember how excited I was, because I had him high on my personal board during that draft, and now it's just a disappointment. So getting somebody like a Sam Laporta or Will Mallory, Darnell Washington, Luke Musgrave. I mean, heck, you could even Kraft from South Dakota State. I mean, there's names out there. It's a deep tight end class. It really is. You can't really go wrong with any of them. But my question to you now, John, is the backup tackle positions are so vital for this team. I mean, we saw games throughout this. We saw our 1st round pick last year, Trevor Penning, get hurt, and then James Hurst having to fill in at that starting left tackle spot throughout the whole season. The backup tackle position, very important. Do you see this team kind of filling that spot in free agency or the draft?
I think they're happy with who they've got. But let me rephrase that. If things go according to plan, they're happy with how things are, where they can have Trevor Penning start on one side, they can have Ryan Ramczyk start on the other side. They got James Hurst as your 6th man. Maybe he's the left guard if Andrews Pete isn't here no more. And then you've also got Landon Young, who's been here a couple of years as a backup. He's been getting his reps, and he's somebody that they can call up too, as that swing tackle. So I think that is the vision. I think they're content with that. I know there's a possibility that Hurst could be released as a cap cut, but I think that would have happened by now. He had a roster bonus trigger recently, I believe. So that he's in the plans for 23, as far as I know. So I wouldn't expect them to make a move at offensive tackle. It's just a little precarious whenever you look at the injury histories there. Ryan Ramczyk, he can only practice 2 days a week because they're trying to be careful with his knee. Trevor Penning, he missed the start of the season with one foot. He missed the ending of the season with the other foot. That's a problem. Landon Young missed most of his rookie year with an injury. So all of these guys have a bit of an injury history here. Some things you got to worry about in the trainer's room. You just got to kind of knock on wood and hope it's not much of an issue here in 23.
As far as I'm concerned, that's right on brand for good old Saints. You got injury history? Oh yeah, we want you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's
right on. What you're doing, man.
Hey, that's right on brand. I'm happy about that. But you know what? Look, we're talking about tackles, but there's a position that I've been whining about forever, right? Logan probably knows it already because I've been yelling and screaming about it, and we finally got one last year in the 1st round. Thank God. The wide receiver, right? I want more receivers, right? Is that something, John, that the Saints are also looking at? Adam Thielen just got released, and as far as I'm concerned, go get him because I'm tired of seeing him cook Marshawn. I don't know why he's like the only receiver that cooks Marshawn every single time they play. Go get him so we don't have to get cooked anymore. But, guys like Adam Thielen are starting to come out. So with Jarvis Landry, I don't know how that situation is going to end up. I don't know if he's going to come back on a cheaper deal. Odell, I don't know. Are the Saints looking at receivers mostly in the draft or the free agency, or if they're looking for them at all?
Yeah, that was one position Mickey Loomis did kind of comment on really quickly. He tried to sneak it in there at the Senior Bowl, or no, not at the Combine, excuse me, when he met with local media. He's like, yeah, there's a lot of tight ends in this class and a lot of receivers too. And then he really quickly changed the subject. So I think that is a position they may be taking a look at here in the draft, and I think that's smart because you look at these contracts for wide receivers, and it's crazy. They're getting paid like quarterbacks out here. And that's why they drafted Chris Olave last year rather than try and sign somebody like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who he got was like $12 million a year or something crazy like that. Or I know they wanted Christian Kirk last year, and obviously that didn't work out because he got paid by Jacksonville, and it turned everything sideways. But yeah, no, I'm pretty confident that they're going to add some receivers this year. There will be options in free agency that may not break the budget. You talk about Adam. I can never get this man's last name right. Thielen. There we go. Yeah, you talk about Adam Thielen. I think Marshawn looks at him and sees Jared Abridges again from when Ohio State played Wisconsin way back when. He got cooked, and I think that's what happens. It gets in his head every time. But he would be a fun player to add. I think he still has a lot left. The Vikings they hired these financial consultant guys to run the front office, and they're tearing everything to pieces. So good luck with them letting go of good players. But no, as far as the Saints and receivers go, they've been trying to get Darius Slayton from the Giants for 2 years now. They've had talks at the trade deadline. Nothing came of it. Now he's a free agent, and he's someone I would like a lot, who probably isn't going to be super expensive, but he's been around a long time. He can play. He's a good deep threat, and he has some experience with the coaching staff. We talked about Cody Burns earlier from Tennessee, the receivers coach. Before he was at Tennessee, he was at Auburn, and he coached Slayton at Auburn back in a few years back. So I think that's a connection that could come into play. He's someone I would like a lot as maybe a backup plan in case they keep Michael Thomas, and they don't want all the pressure to be on him to be that adult in the room, that veteran in the receivers room. So I think that would make a lot of sense. Jarvis Landry, he came to New Orleans to play with Jameis Winston. Like, that was his main draw. Was signing with the Saints, was getting to catch passes from Winston, and we saw how effective that was back in Week 1 last year. But I don't know, if Derek Carr is as appealing to him as Jameis was. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But I'm not expecting him to be back. He talked all along about this being like a 1-year deal, so we'll see how it goes. But I think I'm pretty confident they're going to add some receivers. As far as the draft goes, I don't know. I don't have any intel or anything on that front, but it's definitely something to watch.
So how confident are we in Michael Thomas being back? Because a couple weeks ago it was, oh, he's definitely gone. We restructured the contract in the way that he's going to be released. And then all of a sudden now we hear that he's on the phone with Derek Carr and yo, I'm not getting off the phone until you're here. We're getting to work. So how confident are we in him taking his pay cut, restructuring the contract and all that and coming back here?
Yeah. Let me see, man. I'm pretty confident he'll be back, just from the way he's talking about it, the way that the way that Derek Carr was talking about him. I'm pretty sure that's gonna get done one way or another. The timing is a factor, though. They've got this deadline of the 17th. I think he's got a big roster bonus due. That's Friday. So they're going to try and get that knocked out as quickly as they can. It's been reported that they made some good progress on that. So they're going to keep at it, and hopefully that works out sooner rather than later, so they can take the money they're going to save here by doing this and go and work on other position groups. So as far as I'm concerned, he's coming back, just based off of how everybody involved has been talking about him.
So we've covered many positions, but one position I want to cover that Saints fans I know always get angry when the Saints draft a plethora of them in the draft, because we did it back-to-back seasons. Defensive end / edge rusher. We've definitely missed on that a lot in the draft. I mean, yeah,
Bad track record. Bad track record.
bad track record. I mean, trading 2 firsts for Marcus Davenport, that didn't really work
Bar
out.
was right there. Oh my God.
Then you have Peyton Turner, who just seems like he can't get on the field. So with free agency and the draft, I mean, is defensive end even high on the need list? I mean, Marcus Davenport's probably just going to walk. So do you see them filling that need? And what are some names for you personally that you like, John?
Man, it's really hard to say because so much of it depends on what Peyton Turner is going to do this year, what the expectations are for him this year, and whether he's up to the task of it. Just to be blunt about it, you can't be having your former first round pick being a healthy scratch in the last game of the year. Like that cannot happen, and that is what happened this past season. So I don't know to what degree the Saints are counting on him. It wouldn't shock me at all if they draft a defensive end. They like to run deep. They like to have that rotation and not have to ask Cam Jordan to play 60, 70 snaps a game. He's getting older. They want to keep him fresh. I think that is a priority for them. It kind of feels like they've already made their moves by extending Carl Granderson last year. They went ahead and made sure that he wasn't going to be a free agent this cycle. And then they extended Tono Passignon as well. So to me, it feels like they may have already made those moves as far as free agency is concerned. I would like them to add some more guys. I don't want to be here, be in this position this time next year where your second and third best pass rushers are linebackers who are blitzing all the time. You need your ends to make an impact on the roam. So I would like them to add some guys. I just don't know that they're going to be in a position to do it, given everything else they've got to deal with. As far as the draft is concerned, there's 2 prospects who have really caught my eye. And one of them is Isaiah Foskey from Notre Dame. Here in the early rounds, love this guy. He's built like Davenport. He's already good at football. He led the school. He set the school record for sacks. He's collected like 6, 7, 8 forced fumbles in 3 years. Like kid can play. He's not as flexible as Davenport, but he's got that same. He's tall and he's got long arms, and he's already packed on the muscle and everything. Like he's ready. He could play from day one. He's somebody. If the Saints draft a defensive end in the early rounds, he's the one I want them looking at. Late rounds, if they take a flyer, and look, I'm of the opinion that there's 4 positions you should draft every year, and those would be defensive end, cornerback, offensive tackle, and quarterback. And if you don't have if you don't have a guy at one of those spots, you better draft it every single year. And even if you do, hey, keep rolling the dice on it, taking flyers. That's who you should be looking at with those late round picks, so you can have depth at the most important positions in the game. And if that's how the Saints feel about it, if they're looking at these pass rushers on day 3, a guy I really like is Jose Ramirez from Eastern Michigan. He was really impressive at the Shrine game. He did pretty well at the combine. He's very agile. Dude just fires out of a cannon. Like, he's a lot of fun to watch. He's someone I would like them to take a look at there in those later rounds. But we'll see if he's available. Because if I like him, then I promise you there are people who are more knowledgeable than me working for teams who like him a lot more than I do. So we'll see if he even makes it that late.
Man, that's a scary thought. The Saints draft another end in the first round. I mean,
I know.
I'm not looking forward to seeing another RAS score end because clearly our last 2 haven't been that great. You know what? I had the inside information on Peyton Turner.
Mm-hmm.
You want to, I ain't gonna say no names, but I know an NFL player who got drafted. I played with him. We're talking. And he was like, man, I was upset the Saints didn't draft me, and they took Peyton over me because I was training with him, and that boy was never in training. He was on the injury table all the time. Yeah. I was like, oh, no, don't tell me that, man. Don't tell me that. And then sure enough, healthy scratches. And then him being out for a lot of games. He'll play a decent game, then all of a sudden he's on the injury report, out for like 2-3 weeks. I'm like, all right, what happened? Like, you finished the game, dude. Man, I want Nolan Smith, though, right? 4.39, give me that, right? Speed kills. There's not a lot of offensive tackles that's going to be able to deal with that. There just isn't. Yeah. Look at Micah Parsons, right? Same kind of deal, right? I've been telling Logan, I want a Micah Parsons prototype at end, right? I feel like a lot of times, yes, we have very athletic ends. But I'm hearing that Marcus Davenport was like 300 pounds all of a sudden. Came back 300 pounds, and it sure looked like he was 300 pounds, and it sure like he moved like 300 pounds. So I'm like, all right, let's get even more thing. Marcus Davenport was 6'5", 280 when he got drafted, running 4.5, 4.6. So I mean, yeah, that's super athletic, but I mean, the guy was still raw. He played.
Yeah.
He played against me. I'm watching the guy. so like,
he couldn't play out of a 3-point, man. Yeah, that's just not what he was coached up to do there in college. So yeah, no, my biggest complaint with Dennis Allen, in his defensive philosophy, and I'm wondering right now. I wonder this right now if this was him or if it was Ryan Nielsen, is that they don't value speed off the edge at defensive end. They want these guys who are natural run defenders, who are big and long and 280, 285. They want these big guys who can just set the edge and hold it, and they don't value these Nolan Smith types, these Von Miller types, who are they're bendy, they're fast off the edge, and they like Nolan Smith, who they can just fly upfield. Guys like Zach Bond, ironically, I'm still mad at that whole situation. How are you going to draft this man and then not let him do what he did in college?
Exactly. I was about to say, put him down the edge, man. That's what he wants to do.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And I'm totally guessing here. This is total speculation on my part. I think that was a Ryan Nielsen thing, because if you look at DA's defenses back in the day, look at who he had with the Broncos and the Raiders. He drafted Von Miller. He drafted Khalil Mack. But both of those guys are more like Zach Bond and Nolan Smith, where they're a bit lighter. They're like 250, 260 tops, rushing off the edge. And I think there is a role for a player like that. We saw Caden Ellis do it last year. Which, how is Caden Ellis going to come off the special teams unit and get to rush off the edge, and Zach Bond can't? Like, does that make sense to y'all? Because I could not make heads or tails on that one.
Yeah, I've been on Twitter every single year. I'll just every game, random point of the game, I'm like, where's Zach Bond at? Like, I just keep forgetting he's on the team, because I'm like, why is he not on the line? He always should have been on the line. I was happy when we drafted him, because I was like, yes, athleticism at the end position. And then they're like, nah, he's playing linebacker. We're just going to stuff him on special teams. I was like, no, you almost had it, but no. But you know what? I can confirm that was a Ryan Nielsen thing, because he actually was good friends with my D-line coach in college. And he talked to us on Zoom around the COVID time, and he was giving us points. And this man was talking, so what you want to do with this power angle, right? 2 yards, drew a little triangle for us, power, stop the run first. And I'm like, oh man, he's one of these guys. There's no up the field bend, like none of it. It's you're going to do a chop, you're going to do bull, you're going to be powerful, and you're going to stop the run first. So yeah, it was definitely him. Shout out to him though. He's with the Falcons. So if that's what the Falcons are going to do, yes, I'm all for it. Keep on draft. Go ahead and draft some Marcus Davenports and Peyton Turners for me. Like, that's great. Derek Carr's gonna have a nice clean pocket to work with. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully we can actually get a true DA pick at end if we decide to pick in, because I've been waiting on it. I'm waiting on it. I want to see some athleticism there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh. No, you're good. You're good. Go on. You're good, Logan.
So one of my last questions to you is, because you brought up Caden Ellis. I mean, he's unsigned. He's a free agent. How important is it for the Saints to retain him?
So I know a lot of fans are not going to like this answer, because that's been like the big concern here, right? It is, oh no, are we going to lose Caden Ellis? We can't lose Caden Ellis. It's Trey Hendrickson all over again. And I'm like, guys, let's add some perspective here. Okay, this man was a special teams player for 3 years. Didn't get any run with the defense until this past season, and he had, what was it, 8 games, 8 starts. Filling in for Pete Werner, and he played really well. I don't want to take away from that. He did really well with what he was asked to do, and I think he's a good player, and I think that he deserves to start somewhere in this league. I don't know that that's New Orleans. I don't know that he should be like their number 1 priority right now, or even number 2 as far as that goes. Like, they have Demario Davis for at least the next at least this year and probably the year after. They've got Pete Werner, who, yeah, he has the injuries. I know that's frustrating, but that is one of those things. He's so early in his career. He might never miss a game from injury again. Like that's where we're at with him. You know, I know it's frustrating. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's kind of where we're at here. Now for Caden Ellis, he talked about this too, is that, you know, the money matters, but so does the scheme. Like, he wants to play. He doesn't want to be limited to covering punts and kickoffs and backing up somebody else. Like, he wants to play. He wants to be a starter. And I don't know that he's going to get that in New Orleans, because I don't know that DA is going to totally change up this, this focus on the nickel personnel being their main package. I don't know that they're going to switch it up to get a third linebacker out there when they would rather be playing somebody in the slot, another DB. So I could totally see him going to, Pittsburgh or Buffalo or one of these other teams that's going to have an opening at linebacker and doing really well there. And that's going to frustrate fans. But, the timing is an issue. You would love to have him be your replacement for Demario in a few years whenever he's ready to retire. But I just don't know it's going to work out that way. Caden Ellis, he's not a young guy either. He's 28. This is his first and probably biggest opportunity to get a big contract somewhere, get that life-changing money. He owes it to himself to get the best deals. So I don't anticipate he'll be back. I think he is going to get squeezed out, just like Von Bell did, just like Sheldon Rankins did, just like Trey Hendrickson did. And I think he's going to do well wherever he goes. But I don't look at it as that great of a loss for the Saints, because realistically speaking, he was their fourth linebacker last year. If Zach Bond hadn't gotten hurt, Caden Ellis probably doesn't play as many snaps, and he probably doesn't make as many plays as we saw him make there in December and January. So we'll see how it shakes out. He's somebody I'm not as high on as a lot of fans are, but I wish him well, and I expect him to do well once he hits the market.
John, I'm with you on that. I'm glad Logan asked that, because I wanted to talk about it at some point. I don't think he's. I think we're falling into, a lot of fans at least has fallen into that trap of just liking a player and mistaking liking a player for he's a great player that we just have to have, right? Yeah, he's a good player, but it's like you said, I mean, this guy was a 4-string for like 2-3 years, right? Like, we can't just forget that. And this was about the opportunity. He got the opportunity to play, and he did what you're supposed to do. He did what every coach would say you're supposed to do whenever you're a 3rd, 4th-string, whatever. Hey, this guy went down. Next man up. Just do your job. And that's what he did. He did it well. But it's kind of like with, like you said, Von Bell. I didn't think Von Bell was that big of a loss, right? I thought Malcolm Jenkins was a decent replacement for him.
Tell me this. How many interceptions did Von Bell have in his 4 years with the Saints? How many?
Like 0 or like 1.
One. One in year 4.
Yeah, it was very low. People liked him though. He was a great tackler. Like, that's what he was. But to me, I figured he was like a more advanced Kenny Vaccaro in a way. Like, yeah. So I was like, guys, I promise you, Von Bell ain't gonna be that big. Like, the Marcus Williams thing, yeah, that sucked. But we got Tyron, and Tyron played excellent in the second half. So I was like, maybe the Marcus Williams loss ain't that bad. But Marcus May, say what you want. It is what it is. But yeah, Caden Ellis isn't Marcus Williams, and the Trey Henderson thing, I think you really can't be too upset about that, because there was still a lot of questions about him by the time, his contract was here. Like, hey, is he really that great? Was it just Cam? Was it just scheme? Like, what is it? And then he goes to the Bengals and he proved to you, yep, I'm worth this money. And you're like, all right, well, we got to swallow that pill then. It is what it is. You're not going to hit every time. You're going to be wrong sometimes. I just think Caden has become a fan favorite, and that's what people want. Like, hey, let's bring back the fan favorite. But nah, man, he's yeah, sure, I would like him back, but if he's not back, I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter, but we can go ahead and draft another Caden Ellis. That's the truth of it. We can draft another one. We can find another one. Who's that guy? I think it's like number 50. I liked him a good bit. Yeah, I liked him in preseason a lot. I'm like, hey, there you go. There's your Caden Ellis. See, look, we got another one. It's like, we'll be fine, guys.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
Definitely isn't. And man, we covered a lot of great stuff here today. I really enjoyed this episode. And Calvin, if I have no more questions, but if you have any more questions for John, feel free to ask them right now.
Are we? Do you think we're gonna bring in a kicker to compete with Will Lutz? Because Will Lutz has been a little, little. Yeah, he's been a little shaky. I feel like he's getting a little too comfortable. He got that bag. You know, he got injured. He's like, you know what, man, I'm cooling out. I'm getting paid anyway.
I think it was the injury more than anything for him. You know, that core muscle surgery that can be tough, and you know, it took him out for a year. And then he was rusty coming back, and I just don't know that he ever really fully, you know, recovered from that. So I would like him to bring somebody in. I don't think it's going to be a veteran. I don't think it's going to be a big free agent or nothing like that. I do think they're paying a lot of attention to this rookie draft class. I think that could be a priority for them in undrafted free agency. You know, I think they'll start making some calls, see who they can bring in, get somebody from the college level to kind of compete with him. They do have what's this kid's name? Alex Cavedo from Chattanooga, I believe. They got him in, so we'll see if he can compete here over the summer. They had him last year for a tryout that didn't go nowhere. Yeah, you know, I think they'll bring in some competition for Lutz, but after he took that pay cut, after just after some other moves that they've made, I don't think they're going to make a big move there at kicker, but I think they'll bring somebody in.
All right, last question I got, because we kind of actually, you know what, last two questions, because we kind of abuse these positions here, right? You said earlier on that, you know, every year you need to draft a cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
Are we doing it, right? Do you think that we're going to do that? Because, you know, I love having me some corners, and you know, I'm looking for a Paulson Adebo replacement already. Like, I know he had just like one bad season, but hey, opportunity knocks. You know, if there's somebody else that I see that's great, why not go get him? So how you feeling about that?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So there's a couple things going on here. We've got Marshawn Lattimore missed most of the season with an injury, but we know who he is. You know, we know how talented a player he is. He's your CD1 almost no matter what. But then Paulson Adebo, I know he had a lot of fans his rookie year. A lot of people were really high on him, but there were some problems there. You know, he had a lot of penalties in his rookie year, and he got burnt at times in his rookie year. And then that happened again last season. He didn't really develop the way you wanted to see him grow as a player. The penalties were still a big problem for him. And I think he's someone that they're looking at Alontae Taylor like, hey, man, you can be our CB2. If you have a good camp, if you show up this summer and compete, I think you're going to be a big player for us. And I think that was a Chris Richard thing, too. Like that DA, he's talking about these philosophical differences here. And I think that's what that keeps coming back to. I think Richard wanted to play Adebo and DA wanted to play Taylor. And I think that's what it keeps coming back to. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of my read on that situation. So, yeah, it's interesting. So I could see Adebo getting moved maybe. I could see another team come calling about him. And I think corner could totally be in play. They're not going to sign somebody with Lattimore and Bradley Roby both playing on kind of big contracts. But in the draft, yeah, especially in the slot, you know, they never found their C.J. Gardner-Johnson replacement. They never replaced CD last year. And I could totally see them drafting a guy. I'll tell you one name I'm looking at right now. Keep an eye on this kid, from Illinois, Sidney Brown. He started 4 years for the Illinois. He's played a ton of snaps in the slot. This kid can move. He can tackle. He can play over the top at free safety. To me, he's somebody you could take him in like round two, round three. He can play right away, guarding the slot, and then he could replace Marcus May this time next year, potentially, if that's a contract you need to get out of, or if Tyrann Mathieu is ready to retire, he could be a full-time safety. I like him a lot, and I think he would make a lot of sense for them. There's other guys later in the draft. There's, what's his name? I think he's from Virginia. He's like a 4th or 5th round pick, possibly. Another corner. He was the fastest player at the Senior Bowl. He's somebody to watch. So they've got options. I think they'll make a move. This team loves to draft corners when we think they don't need one. And I can see that continuing here. But they actually do have a big need there in the slot. So that, to me, that's a way that a rookie corner could play right away.
Okay. So also, right, you mentioned he can play, say for Marcus May, right? and if Tyron decides to retire or whatever. So then that's kind of the last question is kind of this big overarching question then, right? Like Demario Davis, right? He's like what, 35? And he
34,
has, yeah, 34 at linebacker, which, take that as you may, but that's not a spring chicken.
Yeah.
And this is a hard-hitting position. Like you're taking a lot of damage and you're giving out a lot of damage. So with that, and also with Tyron, and Marcus May isn't the youngest either, and Marcus May has some injuries.
Yeah, he's 32.
Yeah, and
30 as well, not 32. He's 30. Like he's 30 like me.
Once again, not a spring chicken, and
we're
seeing the league transition to like we had one of the oldest rosters, and I think a lot of that came from the defense, and so. Would you think that this would be more of a defensive heavy draft because maybe you look for maybe the timing isn't right now, maybe you do it next year, but you try to find a Marcus May, a Tyrann Mathieu, and a Demario Davis and Cam Jordan replacement because all these guys are older, especially Demario and Cam and Tyrann, and Marcus May isn't playing every single game, and how many more one-year contracts can you give PJ Williams? The guy is an absolute war hawk with the one-year contract. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
So defensive heavy draft, right? Is that something that you can see us doing because of that?
Yeah, totally. Dennis Allen, he would draft defense all 7 rounds if they would let him. If Jeff Ireland would sign off on it, he would do that. Like if Mickey and Jeff would let him, he would only draft defense. So yeah, I can absolutely see that happening. And look, if you're picking the right players, like I can see that working out really well for you. However, they do know the offense needs a lot of work. What I'm worried about as far as that goes is whether they see Derek Carr as being the only change that they needed to make, because I don't think that's the case. I think they need another receiver. I think they need to upgrade at tight end. I think that they certainly need more running backs. I could see this being like free agency is where they spend their dollars on offense, and then when it comes to the draft, that's when they kind of start looking for depth and looking for these replacement plans and making these long-term moves. I think that might be a smarter way to go about it. But we'll see. Look, you never know who's going to be available at what price, and if things work out the way in a way that can help the team the most, then I think that's where they're going to take it.
Solid. Okay, because I was kind of thinking the same way. It's like, hey, if it was me, I'd go spend some little dollars. Get your running back. Yeah, it would suck missing out on any of these running backs in the draft, but dime a dozen position. It is. Just be honest with ourselves. I definitely want to get younger on defense. I'm a defensive guy. I do love my offense too, but I think realistically, wide receiver and tight ends, we can definitely draft. We should draft. I'm not really too keen on the free agency class for tight ends. And then get younger on defense because we're old. We are ancient on defense. If you look at the numbers, we're like what, top 5 in age, top 7 in age on defense. Like we're absolutely old. And and I'm tired of looking at Cam Jordan just trying so hard to chase down these fast quarterbacks. Everybody's so fast now. And I'm looking at it like, man, if Anthony Richardson is going against us, how slow would he make our team look? Because like we're slow sometimes. So yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that's a great way to handle the draft and handle our little operations. But that's all I have. That's all the questions I got, man. Appreciate you.
Hey, appreciate y'all, man. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on your show.
Hey, John, let me say this. I told Calvin, I think back in November when I tweeted at you, I'm like, look, I'm going to try to get this guy on the show. I love his work, read all of his stuff. I'm going to do what I can, and I'm very happy that you made time out of your busy schedule to hop on this little tiny podcast of ours. So thank you for taking the time, man.
Of course, man. Hey, thank you all for having me, and hey, we got a busy week ahead. Let's get to it.
Hey, let's get right to it. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I am Logan Graffia. He is Calvin Rons, and that is the man, John Sigler of TheSaintsWire. We shall see you next time.